Welcome to the Dateable AF podcast, because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Howell, researcher extraordinaire.
Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Dateable AF podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about It's Never Just About the Dishes, why couples fight about the dumbest things, and what's really going on underneath. So,
I love
Rachel,
I love this topic.
I like it too. Have you ever threatened to end a relationship over wet towels on the bed?
I have not. No, I have not. I have actually snapped my partner with one while they're naked. I've done that. I will confess.
Oh, there's a fight waiting to happen right there.
I have not done that.
I will say, as a therapist and just as a human, I have seen people fight about some really, really dumb things.
Yeah. So I heard one. I can't even believe it's true. So this dumb married couple fighting about, she's arguing with him about the fact that Coke Zero is the same as, has all the same ingredients as Diet Coke. He is swearing that it is. She is swearing that it does not. And they end up like going to bed mad about it. I mean, they get downright, because she can't believe, and unfortunately, I think she let it slip, that she couldn't believe he was so dumb in the argument.
Wow.
And as you can see, I think once things like that start happening, it's a little hard to recover, and then you lose track of what you're actually fighting about.
But it devolves into something way worse. Well, that is clearly a man who does not drink any diet soda, because those are two very different things.
Yeah, and I can understand from her point of view why she would be amazed, because there is a rule, like, I mean, there's a reason why it's two different drinks.
Yes. Agreed. So we're going to talk today. We've got a lot of really good examples like that about things people are fighting about. And what I would say is that almost all of these fights are about something different than they appear on the surface.
Yeah, and I think that's the big deal, is, what's actually going on. And my research for this particular program was interesting around this, because it was a January 2024 article with Gottman, who, Sarah, he's like in your world.
The guru of couples therapy.
Right. He and his wife. And they were referring to some studies that they've done. They've done a number of studies, I think, since the 1980s, maybe even before that. But that from one of these like big studies they did, 69% of all problems, these arguments, are perpetual. So meaning that all of the little underlying arguments you're having are based on these perpetual problems that are the bigger issues. And so the whole idea is just that the perpetual stuff is based on your differences of, like, your lifestyle differences, maybe your growing up differences,
value differences, yeah,
right. But that basically all of these little nitpicky ongoing arguments, what they were saying was that if you stop and you really focus on what's the underlying root of all that shit, drives you right back up to one of those bigger things.
Yep. I think that's absolutely true, that all the little things, if you think about it, they don't matter on a daily basis. Who cares if Diet Coke and Coke Zero have the same ingredients? It's not going to affect your life, but it becomes about being right or about being heard or something bigger. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today and try to figure out what's causing these dumb fights, for lack of a better word, and how you might reroute yourselves and do it differently.
Yes, and another thing that did come up in some of my readings that I think it's very relevant as our listeners are thinking about sort of the mental health space that they're in right now is that the incident of COVID and what that did to people's socialization, when you combine that with what's going on in the current climate in our world, we have created a lot more of a zero-sum game when it comes to arguing or disagreeing or just trying to have conversations where there's sharing and holding other opinions, right?
Yes.
Um,
That
and so,
somebody has to be the winner.
right. And that actually, and the research really said that, I mean, exponentially, that is in play in what they're seeing in couples arguing. Like the arguing has changed.
That makes a lot of sense. And the statistic that you quoted about Gottman, I've read something similar. I think this is what you're talking about, is that most of the things we fight about with our partners are never going to be resolved.
Mhm.
So that argument that was about the Coke Zero and the Diet Coke, she could show him a list of ingredients, but that's not actually going to solve the problem because the problem is about something bigger. And so there might be things that we just go away and agree to disagree about, or there might be ways that we dig in to figure out what the real issue is, but we have to be willing to realize not every single thing's going to be resolved and tied up in a neat little package.
Right. And I do think too, the point of that information is that research is that the more you know about what those things are, then the more you understand when those things, how those things are playing out and all this small stuff, that you're much better at not getting pent up and calling somebody dumb because they don't understand the difference between Coke Zero and Diet Coke.
Two completely different drinks.
I love my aspartame in the Diet Coke.
Not me. I'm a Coke Zero girl myself.
It's the same.
I love it. So would you say, can you explain to us what a proxy argument is?
I don't think I can explain that to you as much as you can explain it. back at you.
Show prep gone bad. So a proxy argument is when you're fighting with your partner about something small, but it really represents something bigger. So if you think about if you're feeling ignored by your partner, instead of addressing the bigger issue that you are feeling ignored, you might get mad at them for not calling you back soon enough. Does that make sense? So it's not really about that one phone call. It's about in the big picture, you're wanting more attention from that person.
Yes. And just to be clear, I did know what that was, but I just felt like you should say it because you're Dr. Kyle and I'm the researcher over here.
I feel like the researcher should be the one to point out these things. But...
No. Yes. And I mean, I have a great example of that in my own life where I was in a situation where I traveled a lot across the U.S. and often without my person. And that typically what was required of me the minute I hit the ground, I was busy. And that person always wanted just a text of I've arrived safe was not always enough. And that they wanted to talk to me when I got there. And it was so inconvenient. And this is probably one of those examples where it just never got resolved because I was always pissed off about it, no matter how many times and no matter how many ways I said, I get to you when I can and call me if there's a fire or if a child is dying and going to the hospital.
Yes, this is one. It's interesting because I did a social media post about this recently, that there's a subtle element of control when someone says to you, like, hey, call me and let me know you got home okay, or call me to let me know you arrived at your destination, or shoot me a text when you get there. That sounds nice on the surface, like they're concerned about you, but there's a little element of control underneath it. Because if I'm flying somewhere and my plane crashed, you would have heard about it on the news, my friend. If I am in the hospital, you are my emergency contact. So they're going to call you if I am in an ambulance. So people get so caught up in that. And it's like, what is it? Like, what's behind that need to know when someone gets home or gets to their destination? It's about you're looking to someone else to soothe something that's unsettled inside of you. And I think you got to really take a look at that.
It's a great example to me of, for I'll just use me as that. I haven't gotten caught up much in somebody reorganizing the dishes that I put in the dishwasher. I don't care. If you want to do that, I don't care. You can have control of that. It's fine. Uh, but in a situation like that, both people have something invested in that is bigger, which is why I think it kept everybody not able to resolve it. It's one of those where the person wanted control and just could not settle in to letting go of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the person on this side, being me, did not want to be controlled.
Yep.
I know. Push my buttons. And then I need to act out, and we're probably going to fight.
Yep. Yep. And then you're disconnected, which is what neither one of you wanted in the first place.
Right.
Yep. And so ideally, you want to connect to that person. And at your earliest possible moment, you're going to call them and connect with them because you love them and you want to connect. That's different than looking at your watch and feeling on the hook because you haven't called them yet and you know they're going to be mad. That's a terrible feeling for both people.
Yeah, it
So-
really is.
Yeah. So it's just about like, I'm going to trust that you love me, that you got there safely, and that you want to talk to me as much as I want to talk to you. So call me whenever you can.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yes. So I think that is a need for soothing. It's a need for relieving someone's anxiety. It's a need for control in a small way. So that's the bigger argument. It's not really about that phone call.
Right. And those are probably the place you should be talking about it is up here at the big level where it's like, hey, I do love you. I promise I'm going to get to you, whatever. Everybody's got to give a little.
Yes.
Versus trying to get sane in the middle of now I'm pissed off and we're too far down the road. And
yeah. And that there's no reason you should stress yourself out if it's not conducive to calling someone. So it's not helping anything to do that. I think a lot of times what happens is that we try to manage our own feelings by controlling someone else's behavior, controlling our partner's behavior. And that's just not a good idea. So it's like we try to control who they can talk to or how often they talk to someone or how long they talk to someone. And that's not because they're doing something wrong. It's because I'm feeling insecure. So, figuring out what that is and everybody learning to manage their own feelings instead of trying to manage another person's behavior.
Yeah, that takes some good insight. I think you really have to, again, know yourself well. And we're in this phase where we're talking about relationships. And we also are still talking about dating. And that's a good thing to begin to practice in your dating. And also a good thing to notice if those big things are so big that they would potentially just keep you locked up in arguments all the time. That's a problem. Doesn't mean that either person is a bad person, just means you're going to be locked up in an argument. I mean, an argument around this, I think, is about being out as a gay person. I'm just going to bring this out there. As
Say more about that.
So there are variations of that. There are people who are committed to, like, I love women. I'm only seeing women. I'm not necessarily jumping around from men to women. So I may have been married to a man, but now I'm totally into women. I'm out. And I'm like, well, you're definitely into women. That's a solid. But the knowing whether or not that person is willing to hold your hand out in public or take you to events or, include you in any space where they would include a significant other. And that what I think is that in the dating, when you're dating somebody and you're not sharing the same vision of that space, I'm not going to say that either person is wrong. They are not. What I'm going to say is that I think that you need to be sure that you are not expecting them to change and come along with you, one
Yes.
side or the other.
Yep. Yeah, this is something we just can't emphasize enough. If you get into a relationship thinking that the person is going to change, you're setting both people up for failure. You have to ask yourself, can I accept this person right where they are right now? And if they're not out yet, but they're planning on coming out, well, wait till they come out to start dating them if that's important to you. But don't start dating them as a not out person and then expect that they're going to come out later, because that they may not.
They may not. And I do think that's just one of those things that once you do it and get in it, then you're going to be arguing about that all the time. Somebody's going to have their feelings hurt all the time. Somebody is not going to be getting what they want. And I just think it's a great example of some of the bigger things that you can learn while you're dating that you just can't, it would cause those ongoing arguments.
Yes, for sure. That's a huge one. I'm glad you brought that one up. So do you think that there are common themes of arguments that happen in queer relationships that may or may not happen in heterosexual relationships?
I do. And I was also doing a little bit of research on that. I was curious about the differences, and some of the information that I read said that for sure women and men handle their anger or their frustration around these things, like you're doing the dishwasher wrong, or what these little things, that there is some good data around the fact that men tend to get angrier and hang on to it longer than women. And I was surprised by
That
that.
is surprising. Yeah, that's not what I would have thought.
Well, and maybe it was also directly correlated to this other piece of information that I thought was very interesting, and is that the first 3 minutes of a conflict will determine how it will go 96% of the time. And so they talked about it as it relates to, and I know you're very familiar with this, when the intensity is so high in the moment and people's nervous system, starts getting dysregulated, then there's nowhere to go. Like, you're not going to get anywhere until the cortisol goes down, all that settles down. And they were saying that I think the deal is men get there quicker. They get into that fight or flight state much faster than women. Women have a much greater ability to stay below that level and sort of stay in this float zone, which makes it easier for them to problem solve or work towards a solution or be available for a change, I guess.
That makes sense. Yeah, that when you say it that way, that does make sense, that guys might escalate more quickly. I think and I'll have to find some statistics on this and I'll put it in the show notes, but I think that guys' cortisol rises more quickly and then I think it dissipates more quickly. So I think that maybe they don't stay in it as long because, women can hold on to shit for some time.
Yeah, that's always been my experience, is that you do have, because I think oftentimes we tend to get emotionally hurt. We don't do a great job. I mean, we're wounded, and we have to go away and lick those wounds. And you've got two people that are having the exact same sort of similar response.
Yes.
That everybody's feelings are really hurt.
You get real hurt. When you load the dishwasher wrong, it crushes me. Hurts my feelings so bad. I know you're doing that to me.
That's right. And there is no sex that's going to happen that night. At least 24 hours.
If the forks are wrong, forget it.
Yeah. And that is, I do think women tend, and I'm saying this, I don't have a lot of data to back it up, but tend to hang on to things longer and stay more tender, and it's personal. Like you're personalizing everything that just happened and you're just holding on to it.
Yes. And I will tell a story on myself about this one, that Joe and I used to get in arguments about the recycling, initiated by me, that I was very meticulous about what went in the recycling, and that if it was recyclable, it needed to go in the recycling because we don't want to destroy the planet. So it becomes like a values-based thing. And if she was not recycling, she does not share my values, and she also does not care about the planet. And my head would spin off my body. I would come in and there would be a glass jar in the trash. And then there would be like a plastic bag in the recycling. And when I would ask her about it, she would say, I thought you said plastic was recyclable. And I just could not, I could not abide it. And so I did not say anything. It went on in my head, but I did not say, I know you're smarter than that, but I did not say that. Instead, what I did was I just let it go. And so I just want y'all to know that half of our household is saving the planet while the other half of they're just destroying it with a vengeance. And I have let it go. There's been no more fighting about it since then.
I have a lot to say about this that I'm taking up for Joe right now, because that other half of the household, the side that's saving the planet, is also violating us a Chick-fil-A all the time. I was gonna say that again.
Bring that up.
My sister, my BFF Joe, is over there being forced to eat Chick-fil-A, and she says it's against her sisters. So, and she's trying, and you think she's just going along with you because she's being sweet about it. But, well, your example is great in that this thing I said about the first 3 minutes of a conflict determine the how it's going to go 96% of the time, is that the fact that you feel it rising up, but then you slam that gate shut before you say, I know you're smarter than that. Because the minute that comes out of your mouth,
it's not going to go well for anybody after that. So I just let it go. I let the planet be destroyed. I let us, I try not to go down that path of, we're wrong for each other because we have completely different value systems. One time, some of our friends, when we lived in Mexico, had done this deep dive about following the recycling and where it went. And they unfortunately let us know that all the recycling ends up in the same place anyway. It all ends up in the landfill. So then I had to let go of my argument.
It was dashed.
I was feeling so righteous about it, but nope.
I just thought of another interesting piece that I ran across when I was doing the research about this podcast, and back to the women, the sensitivities. The other thing that was in one of these studies was that women tend to, when they're hurt, they tend to want to go talk to their friend about it. They want to process it with a friend. And in the process of doing that, they tend to connect all of their sort of intimacy and all of that over there, instead of working it out and keeping it where it needs to be.
Within a relationship?
Right. In the moment. So what happens is the idea, the theory that they were suggesting in the study was that it's not that you wouldn't talk to your friend and get, but that you are able to demonize that person more. You're able to see more of their flaws, and you see everybody else and all the other is good, and you see all the things you don't have over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know from a therapist standpoint whether that makes sense, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just on a side note here, one of the things that I tell almost all my clients is that I have something called the red truck theory. And the theory is that if I asked you to tell me how many red trucks you had seen so far today, you probably wouldn't be able to tell me. But if I said, hey, when you go out next time, I want you to count all the red trucks, you're going to see more. Not because there are more on the road, but because now you're looking for them. And the same holds true with our partners, that if you look for all the things your partner is getting wrong and you look for the ways to demonize them, you're going to see them. And if you look for all the things your partner's getting right, you're also going to see that. So a lot of it is what you're paying attention to.
Yeah, there's another, I have a pet peeve that I would just like to put out there too.
Do tell.
So There's another one of these. I know our audience. I know that you guys out there have had this thing where you're having the discussion about where are we going to go eat? What would you like to eat? What would you like to eat? And typically there's one person who's leading that discussion. And they're asking. And then oftentimes there's this passive partner over here going, I don't know, just anything.
Anything's fine.
Fine. It's all good. And then you suggest, well, we could cook this or we could do it. No, I don't really, not tonight. I don't really, no, I don't. They poo-poo every single suggestion you have until you look at them and you're like, well, then just starve.
Yep. And so what's at the root of that? So that's the surface argument is about where we're going to eat or what we're going to have for dinner, but what's underneath that?
From my point of view, it's that my resentment in that type of situation is that I want to have another person with ideas in my house. I want somebody to take I want to share in the load and the responsibility and also the creativity of those things. So, I mean, if you are always one way or the other, or typically one way or the other, you're just wearing that person out. And I feel like the other person, I don't know, they just underperform because you overperform. I don't know.
It's a passive form of control. Me saying, I'm fine with anything. I don't really have an opinion. And then shooting down all of your ideas. That's a passive way of controlling things.
I don't like it.
Yes, exactly. And that indecision is kind of a decision. You're not deciding anything. And so that is a decision that you're leaving that in the other person's court.
And I'll take this back to dating. It's something that I notice in dating is that I very much love it when somebody else has some ideas, because I always have some ideas. And it's, hey, let's go here, let's go there. You know, there's this cool thing. But I don't want to be the one. And it's off-putting to me if I'm going to lose interest in you if you don't have any ideas.
Yes. Just wherever you want to go. Yeah, that's true. That is true. So I think that this issue of petty argument comes up maybe more frequently in a relationship with two women than it does in other relationships, because you have two people that are hyper attuned. You know, from the time we are girls, we get socialized to tune into other people's feelings. And so when you have two people that have been socialized that way, they're both really tuned in. And so I think when you have double the feelings, you also have the potential for double the resentment. And things escalate more quickly than they might otherwise.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing is,
I believe it.
You could challenge me a little bit if you want to. I think too is even really progressive couples tend to fall into gender stereotypes. So, you know, daddy's doing the outside chores and mama's doing the inside chores. And even if we don't buy into that, I think it defaults along those lines a lot of times. And when there are two women, those lines are a little more blurry. Like, oh, which one of us is going to do the laundry and which one of us takes out the trash? And so I think that also can breed little arguments, or it can breed little resentments if we're not really clear about that over time.
That is, yes, that's really, are you the daddy or the mommy?
We do not divide things like that in our household. Just
oh, come on, tell us.
We do not divide things like that in our household.
I know Joe does the yard.
Well, I'm not even going to go there. Because she will kill me if I talk about this. So I'm gonna plead the fifth right now.
Oh,
marriage.
I almost got it. We came this close. Shoot.
We were real close, but nope, not talking about that one. She does more of the yard. Yes, that is true, and you can make of that what you will, my friend. But
some people are great with. There's also sometimes some people are just gifted with power tools, and you know, big machinery, and some people are, not as good with it.
This is true. I learned something new this weekend. We went to visit our friends Mel and Dre in California, and Dre informed me that for any given project, you need at least 3 drills. And I can't remember what they were, but one was to drill the hole, one was with the screwdriver bit, and there was a third one that you needed for some other reason. So that's why you got to have a lot of drills. And I did not know this.
Oh.
I just thought you changed out the bit, the thing that you needed, but clearly I do not know. I do not know these things.
I didn't either, but I mean, I'm familiar with the fact that there are various drills.
Yep.
And I have used different types of drills in the past.
Well, apparently if you just get them all 3 out and you lay them all out for your one project, then you don't have to change things out so much. You just pick up the one that has the bit that you need.
So that makes perfect sense.
Yep. Apparently it's much easier to do it that way. So that just shows you my lack of familiarity with power tools. And I will say that you do not want me to wield a weed eater. That yard will look like it got a bad haircut if you're trying to get me to edge with that weed eater. I don't even know how people do that. So I'm going to hire someone to do that.
Oh God. We all have our strengths, and then
we all have our strengths.
And then our weaknesses. So
I'm really good at some things, but weed eating is not one of them. Just going to put that out there right now. So I think there's also this narrative, and this doesn't hold true for just women's relationships, but I hear this a lot, that your partner should just know what you need. Well, I don't want to tell them what I want for my birthday. They should just know. And that, oh my gosh, this causes so many problems in a relationship. Like I don't want to tell you what to say, or I don't want to tell you I need a hug. I just want you to know. It's like, how is that person going to know they're not a mind reader? So I would like to dispel the myth that asking for what you need or asking for what you want negates when you get it. I think it actually sets both people up for success when someone asks for what they need.
Yes. And otherwise, it's like landmines are out there, and you don't know when you're going to blow a leg off.
Yes, exactly. That's very true.
Very scary. And it will nail you to the cross when you're in an argument, because you may have really tried to get it right, and you will be punished.
Yes. If you didn't get it exactly right and that person didn't say what they needed. So let's talk about some ways that folks can know what the fight is really about. That we know it's not about putting the toilet paper on correctly or putting the forks in the dishwasher the right way. So one of the things that you can ask yourself is, what need of mine isn't being met right now? So in your case, where you were being asked to make a phone call as soon as you arrived at your destination and that wasn't convenient, what was the need that you had that wasn't actually being met?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was mad that I was having to make it, the phone call?
Yep.
My need was that I needed to be present with the folks when I entered, and that I needed for them to be able to count on me doing that, and I needed to not be seen as needing to slip away and make a phone call the minute I hit the ground.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be present and everybody there know that I was ready. I was showing up and I'm available to them.
Yes. Yeah. And I think even underlying that is that you had a need for autonomy.
Yes, thank you. That's it. Definitely the bigger picture. Oh my God, there she's Joe. Right there.
Uh-oh.
She's
surprise
weed eating.
Appearance.
I think she's weed eating. Did you plan that?
I did not. She's actually blowing off the deck.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and turn the computer.
I saw it a minute ago, and I thought it was mine. I looked out. I'm like, somebody's in my backyard.
That was awesome. I love it.
Yes, the parents. I've been wanting to get her on the show. She's been refusing, so
it's probably the closest she'll ever come. So if those of you watching on video, you'll have to go back and see that thing that happened at minute 34. So
yes, so okay. Autonomy. Yes, you're right. If you dig deeper, that is exactly right.
That you had a need for autonomy, and what was the need that your partner had at that time when she was asking you to call?
I think she had a need of just making sure that we were connected. that I was still connected to her.
Yep. Yeah, she had a need for connection. She had a need for security. So if you talked about it in that sense, then it's not so much about whether you actually make a phone call. You can figure out what the needs are and how can each of us get our needs met by talking about the real issues. So I think that that's an important one. So just asking when you're in a petty fight and you know it's not about the thing you're fighting about, what's the need that I have that's not being met right now? The other thing is asking if something is a pattern or if it's a one-off. So let's say you're fighting about the toilet paper roll being on the right way or the wrong way, because we all know there is a right and a wrong way. Does your partner always put it on the wrong way? Like, is that a pattern that they have, or is it a one-off? Like, oops, just put it on there wrong this time. And so,
or just they don't put it on at all. They set it right there when this one is empty, just right there every time. But you're like, you see that.
You knew that it was empty. Why'd you do that? Yeah. Actually, this is a good lesson that I learned from Joe, and that is the amount of toilet paper left on the roll keeps increasing as time goes on. But when the roll gets down to about a fourth, she changes it out, puts the new roll on, and then sets the old partially empty roll on top instead of doing it the other way around.
Yeah.
So she's preemptively changing it out. And now we've gotten to where it's like when it's half a roll, pretty soon we're just going to have 2 full rolls up.
I do that when my guests are coming over, but since I live alone,
make sure we've got enough, you know. But it is a nice thing to do for the person.
Well, so I want to know that those are sort of easy to tease out the bigger issue, but this one I read about was about a husband and wife playing a game with each other, and they were turning themselves into something, and he turned himself into a goldfish. And in the game. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not in real life he didn't he didn't do that. But but in the game he did. And her response was, well, you know, if that's what you're going to be, then I think eventually I'd probably have to leave you. They actually got mad at each other and like went to bed mad. He was hurt. They were.
She would leave him if he actually turned into a goldfish?
Yes. Okay. What do you think that was about?
I think that man's got a lot of resentment built up about something, but I don't think it's about turning into a goldfish.
And I felt that she was just being honest.
Yes, exactly.
That she didn't really make a commitment to a goldfish.
I feel like this analogy could work for lots of other things, but we probably won't go there right now. You know, you're not the person I married because you're not marrying a goldfish.
Exactly. But and one of the things that we did come up as like ways to sort of combat when you get in that situation, you know, and you are, and you're doing one of these petty arguments that we've discussed. And humor is one of the suggested ways to get out of that loop. You're all of a sudden, you just don't want to get deep down into that where everybody is taking a stand around the Diet Coke Zero thing. And so, or the goldfish. And that, you know, you laugh at yourself. Yes. The moment where you take a breath and you must look at yourself and go, I'm not a goldfish.
This is true. And I think using humor is good. And both people have to be willing to lighten up about it a little bit. I was with somebody one time who would get really mad about the vacuuming and whether it had gotten done. And they got so bent out of shape about the vacuuming. And I would literally have to say, honey, we are not breaking up about the vacuuming. And then that would kind of lighten everything up. And so that might be a tool that you use with your person to say, oh, baby, we're not breaking up about the goldfish issue, or we're not breaking up about Diet Coke. That just reminding the person, this seems really big right now, but in the big scheme of things, this is not a breakupable fight.
Yeah. And it's, again, also another thing that we've talked about in noticing things that are healthy in a dating relationship. And it is something that you can test out as, does this person, are they able to laugh at themselves? Do they have a good sense of humor? Can you do things like, would it piss them off if you brought home a goldfish in a bag, after that,
I love it. Yes. I think using humor is great. Another thing that you can do is you can have a code word. Joe and I have a code word, and it's cinnamon. And that can apply to a lot of things. That could mean stop talking about this right now. Like you're oversharing something in front of other people. It could mean we need to take a break from this argument. So you can come up with a code word.
And then when you say cinnamon, I think there is some sort of, okay, but we have a commitment to come back together at some point.
Yes, if we need to. Yeah, if it's a dumb thing, we might both be able to just let it go. We don't have a whole lot of dumb fights. Once I got over the recycling thing, it's been a big since then. The other thing that is a good recommendation is to schedule check-ins with your partner. So you have a certain time every week or every month that you just sit down and check in about how each other's doing, kind of like a state of the relationship talk, so that things don't build up and they don't bottleneck and somebody doesn't have, an explosion because they've been bottling things up.
Yep. And also, I think that knowing what you really, do you really have skin in the game around? If you don't have skin in the game around certain things, let it go.
Yes.
Let it go. It's not worth it.
And is this going to impact your life in five years or even 6 months? If they put the toilet paper on the way that you don't like it, really, is that worth fighting over? Is it worth getting bent out of shape? Just let it go. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. If you can't let anything go, that's a different problem too. That's a bigger thing. That goes back to the bigger thing. You gotta, because if you're going to make it with anybody in a relationship, everybody's going to be letting something go.
Yes. And does that really matter?
Right.
And I think that touches on something else, is that people attach meaning to things that don't have meaning. If you loved me, you would put the toilet paper the right way. It's like, no, baby, I love you and I'm not going to do that. Like, I love you and I'm not going to call you right when I get to my destination. So how can we work around this? So try not to attach meaning to things that your partner does or doesn't do. And, if there's an inequality in the relationship, let's say you're doing all the chores and your partner's doing 0 chores, that's a whole different thing than just getting in fights about dumb stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know that these listeners out there have some great examples of some really dumbass arguments they've either been witness to or that they've been involved in. We would love to hear some of those. We would be thrilled to anonymously share some of the.
Yes, we would love that in our after party episode. Yeah, so please feel free to email us info@dateableaf.com. We'd love to hear from you, or you can also DM us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is just @dateableaf. So let's kind of recap some takeaways from this. Remember, first of all, that the fight is not about the dishes. The fight is about whether you feel seen or heard by your partner. It's always about something deeper. So don't forget to ask, what need do I have that's not getting met right now? So you can sort of get away from the surface level thing and back to the important thing.
I also like that doing a quick check-in, like on a systematic basis, like, every month or 2 weeks or whatever it should be. But I like that idea too. It's very preventative.
Yes.
In nature.
Yes. And I think you can validate your partner's feelings without feeling like you lost the argument. You can say, I get that you're feeling a certain way. I hear your feelings. Even if I see it differently, I can still hear your feelings. So just give them a little bit of a validation.
Yep. So what's our next episode?
Well, we haven't fully figured that out yet. So it'll be a surprise. You guys will figure it out next time.
I have one that I haven't talked to you about that I'm going to just put the idea out there. I'm going to float the idea. I don't know if we'll do it or not because we haven't voted on it yet. We have a voting. Yeah. Voting organization.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking that we should talk about personal grooming and unwanted hairs as you get older and all these other things that happen to you.
Okay. I think personal grooming has there's a wide swath of things we could talk about related to
I'm
that.
just
So
everything from hair you don't want
to
to hair
you want.
you want. Can't have anymore. And what do you do with it? And then how many variations of things are out there? Yeah.
I like it. Okay, well, stay tuned, folks. We might be talking about that next time. So don't forget to send us your stories or your comments about this episode. And thank you again, as always, for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex. Stay dateable.
AF.